Good afternoon. Welcome to the celebration of the 149th anniversary of the founding of Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University. Today we celebrate the rich and storied legacy of this great institution. We also honor the vision, courage, and determination of our founder, Reverend Dr. William Hooper Council, and the countless men and women whose shoulders upon which we stand today. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors and remain standing for our national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. We would also like to welcome this year's Golden Class. Please give them a warm round of applause. This is quite a number that we have here, and this is the youngest looking Golden Class that I've seen. That's all right. Y'all should wish to be here in 50 years from now, right? All right. Greetings now will be given by our Vice President, Jamal Ali, followed by the responsive reading and invocation led by Reverend Melvin Summerhill.
Greetings. Good afternoon. I'd like to say welcome again to the Alabama A&M's 149th Founders Day Convocation, and a special salute to the Golden Class. I know to many of you it seems like it was only yesterday that we were just leaving the dusk to dawn party, followed by a food fight in the cafeteria, just yesterday. And 5 decades later, look at us now. But today we honor the rich heritage, celebrate our achievements, and chart the course for a future filled with excellence and innovation. Together, let's commemorate Dr. Council and all who came before us to our university and reaffirm our commitment to shaping tomorrow's leaders. Again, welcome. We hope this is the most festive Golden Class reunion that we've ever had. Welcome again. Thank you.
The invocation. Scripture, Psalms 121, verses 1 and 2. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come today to worship and honor your greatness. We thank you for all the many blessings. We thank you for Alabama A&M University from its beginnings in 1875 through 2024. Thank you, God, for Dr. William Hooper Council, the founder of this great university. Please bless this 149th Founders Day celebration as we commemorate the legacy of Alabama A&M University. Please allow your continued favor on this great institution of higher learning. We ask your blessings on the participants and the attendees. Let us embrace and execute the university mission and vision, core values and strategic priorities in order to fulfill the strong commitment of academic excellence. Lord, please continue to bless Alabama A&M University leadership, President Dr. Williams, administrator, professors, students, parents, alumni, and all those who work toward fulfilling the founder's vision. Dear God, we believe that you intentionally placed this institution on Norman's Hill so that it can be a light to this world and represent goodness. We ask these blessings in your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
We now have the recitation of the poem, The Old Normal Spirit, by Miss Pre-Alumni, Miss Talia Oglesby. And following the poem, our internationally renowned choir will do their rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Miss Oglesby.
The Old Normal Spirit by Elizabeth Gregg. A&M, how blessed art thou on this memorable hill, whose life has begun from a dream within, whose vision projects from a spirit untold, whose strength came from a man of old. This man knew no comfort, this man knew no love, yet he toiled unceasingly, entirely, to inject into thine heart a spirit, so that man can come from the boundaries of the world and partake of thine happiness. Thy streets bustled as thy birthday came, and the spirit could be felt as it transcended. Thy young men hustled, thy devotes stared in awe and wonder. Thy formal children, young and old, conversed, welcoming this happy reunion. Thy students grinned aloud, others passed to and fro, as if going nowhere. And in distance thy drums could be heard, depicting the pangs of glee, felt by many in days gone by. Hark! As I stopped to listen, the spirit was real. A&M, the life has started from a man of old, from in thy cafeteria grounds, laid neatly beneath the tune. Thy frigid bones of majestic self-sufficiency and wonderful clarity, that staunch-looking man, that man of stamina, that man of excellence. But A&M, did he mean for the old spirit to die? Did he mean for it to be substituted or counterfeited? There are reasons for their presence on this hill. In the middle of the grounds is this old spring of thy birth, the favorite meeting place of men and women of old, who after long, laborious day needed to be comforted. Here they would come smiling, though with knitted, work-worn brows and rest. On the rise behind the springs hang the old bell, which since 1891 chimed ever so beautifully, outpouring the spirit of those happy yesteryears. Embedded in hearts of Normalites are traditional landmarks, Palmer Hall, Hurt Hall, Langston Hall. I envision their eyes glistening, the Councils, the Drakes, the Thomases, the Elmores, when they talked of courting at the spring, fetching water in the wee hours of the morning for breakfast table in Langston Hall. I feel a sense of pride along with them as their womanhood and manhood were developed with the old normal spirit. Council meant for that spirit to live on. A&M, are you still proud of your heritage? Do you feel the need to go forward for thy spirit never feared? Do you have a sense of togetherness for thy spirit never hated? That man of old, he meant for that old normal spirit to live on and on.
right, come on now, golden class. We can do better than that. Clap for them like you mean it and not like you're mad at them. Under the direction of Professor Horace Kearney. You may be seated. Class of 1974, are you ready? All right, we're about to do something a little different here. I know this is Founders Day, and it's a sacred and divine time of reflection and refraction. But we're about to put you back in class one more time. And we want you to pay attention. And so I want to put a couple of marshals on the corner, so for those who fall asleep, just shake them a little bit. But this is a very exciting time in our history. We have a pregnant moment in the history of Alabama Agricultural Mechanical University, and we have to take advantage of those pregnant moments. You only get this opportunities that are coming our way sometime once in a century. And if you don't seize that moment, you lose it. Now, VP Ali got up here and talked about the food fights and the cafeteria, and Betty Austin said she don't know what you're talking about. Dr. Cheatham said you were lying. But to set the record straight, I've asked one of our former illustrious president, Dr. Carl Marbury, to come back and have a conversation with us. He is of the ripe young age of 89 years old. And so while we have him, we want him to know that this family is his family, and we are going to pull out of him everything we can get, right? But he graduated from here in 1957. He also attended Oberlin College, Vanderbilt, and Harvard. He's Ivy League. He served as president from 1987 to 1991. Now he's retired and resting, but we want him to do a little work today. So class, get ready. Joining him is another one of our illustrious alum whose name was national at one point in the history of Alabama A&M. She's a school administrator, retired, received her degree in 1969 and then a master's in 1974 in secondary education. You all know her as she was the plaintiff in the Knight Sims versus the state of Alabama, Dr. Elise Sims. Also on our panel is the longest, well, maybe not the longest, but one of the longest serving professors and administrators on our campus, 40 years. She holds a position of professor. She is a doctorate from The Ohio State University in botany, focusing on medical mycology. She's currently president of the Faculty Senate and a member of our Board of Trustees. All of you know her, Dr. Jeanette Jones. And then my friend and brother, a young one among you, he is a native of Birmingham. He graduated in 2002 with a degree in environmental science with a minor in chemistry. 2004, he received a master's in urban and regional planning, and he is the author of the seminal work on our founder, Reverend Dr. William Hooper Council, the greatest Negro the race ever produced, Mr. Eddie Davis, Jr. Now, we don't have a long time to get through this because we got a 5 o'clock commencement, but I really want to inspire and encourage a rich conversation. So they don't know what the questions are. I've not shared the questions. They don't know what to expect. So I've asked them to be alert students themselves, right? All right, now are you ready? Now y'all know this is what I love because I'm a professor at heart. So I am truly enjoying myself today. But to each of you, I want to ask you tell us, what does this university mean to you personally and professionally? And what do you see as its importance to the community, region, and nation? We'll start with Dr. Sims.
Thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me up today. And I know you've seen in the program, I got my master's here in 1974. I'm March. To me, I have to tell you, I'm from a mining town. It's a part of Birmingham now, but then it was just a little mining town called Dolomite. And not the comedian. I've taken a lot of hits about that. But it's a mining camp. It was a mining camp out in the western section of Jefferson County. And I came to Alabama A&M during the summer at the behest of my mother's youngest sister, Dolores. And she was trying to stop me from going to Hampton. That's where I wanted to go. And I got up here, and of course, you know what happens when you get on the hill. I met a boy. but after, he didn't go home with me, though. But after that, I met some of the most fascinating teachers. And changed my major because every time I go into class, somebody would just razzle and dazzle me. I was just so impressed with them. And finally, I realized that there was just that connection. And I was able to just grow. And I looked around and I saw so many things happening in this neighborhood and the community and the connection between Alabama A&M and put the Heights down here, and all over Huntsville. And all the day, we had been living in those dormitories, and the rooms would shake early in the morning time, and the rooms would shake late at night because they were shooting up, testing engines over at Marshall. And one day, this busload of soldiers, German soldiers, came up, and that's when I found that, wow, Werner von Braun himself had an office on this campus. And that a lot of my classmates were being selected to go over to Redstone Arsenal and work as co-op students and part-timers. And then after I graduated, I noticed how they had just moved on up in that atmosphere. So to me, A&M was like the world, because I also met international students that I never would have met in Dolomite, from the islands, from Africa. And so it planted that seed in me that I wanted to stay here. Both of my children attended here. My sister came here. She met her husband here. And I have so many relatives who have matriculated here and have gone out and done well. And that's why I love Alabama A&M.
Dr. Sims, we're going to have another conversation about von Braun, and because you just dropped the atom bomb on this. Oh, I don't know if y'all caught that. But there is a history there that we can't lose. And that history, some of that we're going to discuss today, and it goes directly into our juxtaposition of that other institution across the street.
Yes.
Dr. Marbury.
Yes. Oh. Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you, President Webbs. And having served as president, I want to welcome you and commend the board for choosing such an able man to be the next president of our beloved Alabama A&M. Yeah, I want to say just a word about how I came to A&M, because I didn't plan to come to A&M on graduation day at Robert R. Moulton High School in Leeds, Alabama. That's just east of Birmingham. But on graduation day, the principal, John T. Smith, had invited the president of Alabama A&M to be the guest speaker. And I had heard about him and read about him. So I'm anxiously waiting to see what this little short man is going to say. Oh, he got up to speak, and he started off slow. But then about the middle of his speech, he started telling a story about a former slave who had become president of a college in Huntsville, Alabama. Well, that pricked my ears. How is a slave going to become president of a college? But he told the story of William Hooper Council from beginning to end. And you could have heard a pin fall in that auditorium. But by the end of his speech, he said this. He said, yes, we are trying to, at A&M, train persons who have the same spirit that this former slave had. That not only did he get an outstanding education, pushing and working and doing all he could, paying for tutors and whatever it took to almost, you would say he was 3/4 educated. But by the time he had finished, and he said, oh, by the way, I have brought a scholarship for the valedictorian. And guess who that was? So I liked the other school, and I still love it to this day, and I did teach and serve as dean of that school. It's a great school. I served there for a while, and while I was there, I helped to establish the Tuskegee Airmen National Museum. I'm still very much a part of the Tuskegee family, but mostly a part of the Alabama A&M family. And I have never regretted coming here and being, just a word about being in this auditorium. I was here when we named this after the Bradfords. The Bradfords were just like Dr. Council. They had the same spirit. What we say is A&M students need to know and make sure that they know about William Hooper Council because he had a certain spirit about him. And no sooner than I got here, I caught that spirit, and it has been a part of me all of these years. And Mr. James Wilson wanted me to teach Sunday school, and I taught it right over there and had the largest Sunday school class of all the Sunday school. I went out and recruited in the halls, and I beat everybody having the largest class. I thought that was the council spirit, you see. And last of all, when I was deciding on, well, what am I going to do here? Now I've finished beloved Alabama A&M. I went into that office right there where Dr. Bradford, who is the chaplain, who I attended chapel every Sunday, and Mrs. Bradford. And they talked to me about, well, why don't you consider going to the best school in the North? And that's Oberlin College. The first college in the United States that admitted women and blacks. All right. And that's where I went. I went to Oberlin College and finished there. And those professors said, well, we think you ought to go on further. And they came up with a scholarship that sent me on to Harvard. But it all started with Dr. Drake. And I've always believed that there is something special about Alabama A&M because Dr. Drake, who finished Talladega, but he had the normal spirit. He knew and articulated the spirit of Dr. Council, and he conveyed that in the way he lived and in his speeches and in addresses. He was always noting that there was something special. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think about, one word about Dr. Council that I don't think I've heard anybody else say. I really think that Dr. Council was a genius, but the white folks didn't know it. In other words, I believe he was born, that the Lord had blessed him from the very beginning with a brilliant mind and a tremendous and a tough spirit. He wasn't going to let anything turn him around.
Yes, sir. Dr. Marbury, hold some of that now. Don't give it all up. You got those nuggets. Number one, Alabama A&M established the Tuskegee Airmen. But we were in the room and we were the brainchild. There was no one in that room smarter than Dr. Marbury. That's number one. And number two, some of those historical nuggets, and we're taking notes, and we want to reduce this to a document. Dr. Jones, since your arrival at Alabama A&M as assistant professor in '84, how do you assess our evolution and growth? Assess.
How do I assess?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I knew he brought me here to be his punching bag. The faculty know that, and the alumni might not know that. But Alabama A&M is a critical point, in my opinion, a pivotal point. I think our growth is, we have an exciting opportunity to expand our footprint. We can build on what has happened here in the past, and one of the reasons I love Alabama A&M, and I came here when I was 24 years old, and I planned to be here only 3 years, but I stayed a little bit longer. And I've seen students come here who barely could make it, and they're out now, they're They're cardiac surgeons or cardiovascular surgeons. They are in such important positions. And that's because of the spirit of William Hooper Council that remains here at the university. It remains in the faculty who are here, who are dedicated. They're not here because they get paid a whole lot of money. They're here because they are dedicated and they go beyond what is asked of them to deliver and to make the students or help the students become what they are. And so I assess that Alabama A&M is in the right place. We're in Huntsville, Alabama. It's the largest county in the state. We have an opportunity now to expand our footprint, not just in North Alabama, but in Central Alabama and maybe South Alabama. But we have that opportunity, and so I assess in terms of our growth, I think our growth is great. Is something that we can look forward to with the dynamic leadership of our alumni president and our president of the university working together. I think that, along with the faculty and the staff, just having a unified group moving forward. And so I assess that we're in a good position. We're in the best position, I think, that we've ever had. And so we've got to take advantage of that. And I think it takes a coalition, like a village to raise a child, but it takes a coalition around, that gather around a particular objective to really grow and reach your potential. I've always said since I've been here, I've seen things, I've seen us come to a point, and then we are moved back. So I think we are at a point that we're ready to move forward. We're ready to move forward to make the big jump, and we just have to realize that. We may not have realized how great we are. We don't know. We didn't know about Von Braun, some of the things, but we knew some things, not all the things. And so we are picking up on our marketing and letting people know we are Alabama A&M University. And we let them know what we have and what we have the potential to do. And so we're at the right place, we're the right institution, in the right county, in the state of Alabama, with the right opportunities at our footsteps. And we just need to take advantage of it. So that's my assessment.
Following up on that, Mr. Davis, and you know, you're the youngest, so you got to get put on the spot now. And I don't want you to sugarcoat this, but tell us the truth. And you and I have not talked about this. We have not preempted what your response would be, but do you think that we're truly upholding the principles and core values of the founding of the institution and the founder's vision? Your assessment. You are the resident expert on Reverend Dr. Council.
First of all, Dr. Williams, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel today and glad to be before you all. When we think about the founding principles of the school during the period of Dr. Council, even when we review some of the historic documents, be it his magazine that he started in the late 1800s, known as the Herald, or even the Normal Index, which is the school's paper, the subtitle says, head, heart, and the hand. So these are three components that drove education during that period, and in the core of Alabama A&M as well. It probably was made popular by Booker T. Washington, but these were pillars that Dr. Council implemented even before Booker T. Washington would even come to the state of Alabama to establish Tuskegee. But when we think about the head, that's acquiring knowledge and education. When we think about the hand, that's the technical skill from the theory that was obtained. And the heart, that's really the basis where we establish our culture, our character, our ethics, the things that we stand for. But educating the head, the hand, and the heart, now you're educating a complete person to go off into the world to do better good, wherever you may find yourself. And I think that's the core of council's belief. And it's synonymous with our motto, which is service is sovereignty. That still goes back to the heart. And even the tagline that we use now, start here, go anywhere. So those are tentacles that we still see today that started in our founding with Dr. William Hooper Council.
Dr. Sims, Dr. Marbury, you want to opine on the same topic, briefly? Yes, sir. Use your mic, Doc.
One of the things about Dr. Council, he was able to see in individuals, both black and white persons, who had certain abilities, but they were approachable as human beings, so that nothing stood in the way between him and the individual, like a white, for example. He managed to get himself appointed the enrolling clerk in the legislature, which was a very important position, step number one toward the founding of A&M. And he got that appointment as soon as he got that appointment from the white Alabama delegation in the House of Representatives. The first thing he did when he got in the legislature and with that appointment, he went and shook hands with Peyton Findley, who had been elected from Montgomery as a black legislator. Peyton Findley was gung-ho in education of blacks and had already sponsored some bills. So there you had Peyton Findley and William Hooper Council now ready to write the legislation that would cause the founding of Alabama A&M on May 1st, 1875.
Also, if you notice what he said, he went to the legislature. Sometimes under different administrations, people have forgotten the importance of selling yourself, and maybe that's not the wrong word, marketing, I guess, yourself before others. When we decided, and when I say we, I mean the Alumni Association, Dr. Marbury was there, that it was time for A&M and Alabama State to have a board of trustees.
Yes.
We went to Montgomery and held a legislative, we held the first
Yes.
of either school, legislative reception. And we wined and dined the legislators. At both presidents, Dr. Watkins and Dr. Marbury were opposed to our doing that. They didn't like the idea. But we persisted. I stayed in Montgomery a whole week. We went from one Wednesday to the next Wednesday trying to get them to pass that bill with the assistance of the first black senators elected since Reconstruction, that being U.W. Clement and J. Richmond Pearson.
Yes.
And the bill was finally passed, and then it laid on the governor's desk. And we had a lady, I got to give her credit, Audria Huntington, don't you? Audria Simpson Huntington.
Yeah, that's right.
And her mother had been George Wallace's family's cook. And Audria had played with him. You know how they would let the little children play together until they get to be about 6, 7 years old, and then they separate them. And she said, oh, I can go in there. And she bamboozled her way and walked in that office and said, George, you know me, I'm so-and-so's granddaughter. And do you know they sat there and they had that little chat? And he said, oh, sure, I'll sign it. Oh, sure, I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the kernel takeaway from that is that they were able to maneuver to get the legislation passed and get George Wallace to sign it into law.
Yes.
Give them another warm round of applause. That's important. That's important. We're going to move a little quick here, a couple of questions that we need to really put some context to. President Marbury and Mr. Davis, you probably are the foremost authority on this. Post-1890, around 1891-ish, we got the designation as the land grant. Most people don't know it was a competition. It was a competition between Tuskegee, Alabama State, and us. Mr. Washington was the principal at Tuskegee, and Patterson was the president of Alabama State, and of course, Reverend Dr. Council here. So tell us, how did we win that designation, and how did Reverend Dr. Council maneuver to outpace in the legislature both Mr. Washington and Patterson, who were right close to Montgomery?
Yes, and I'll cover that.
Okay, all right. It was key and instrumental who would secure the funds to help either Alabama State, Tuskegee, or Alabama A&M. The state, by this time, I believe, A&M had received about maybe $4,000 in state fundings at this period. Tuskegee and Alabama State, being closer to the legislature, always received more funds. They could lobby better, they're closer to the Capitol. And council seemed to be, we got 4 hours away essentially. But the beauty about the 1890 land grant, these are federal funds, so they go directly from DC. At the time, Booker T. Washington, he wrote a letter to Dr. Council. He suggested, well, how about we agree to divide the total funds among Alabama State, A&M, and our Tuskegee. His words were, let's not have a squabble. Let's just agree to divide whatever the funds are. Well, council, at A&M, we were already doing the work of agriculture, the mechanical arts, the trade. So he felt we were already in a better position to be the state designated land grant school. So they wanted to have a competition, if you will. At the time, Alabama State's, the leader of the board, if you will, or their board of trustees or commissioners were made up of the state superintendent and the governor. So many people thought Alabama State had the advantage on who would get selected. Booker T. Washington had notoriety in the paper, but he was quoted saying some things in the paper that seemed to have promoted social equality. So it immediately got him out of favor with the public. But council had a big joker, if you will, in his back pocket. Although he's away from Montgomery, he's closer to Joe Wheeler, who was the U.S. representative, representing Alabama in this part at the federal level. So he would court Joe Wheeler, and because of his relationship and a dear friend at the time, is the reason why we were selected as the 1890 land grant school.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about marketing and selling ourselves and being politically savvy. It was because of Dr. Council and that relationship with a former Confederate general is the reason why we are the 1890 land grant school.
Yes, let me come. That's well said. In addition to what he said, the politics of the time was this. You remember, Booker T. Washington had come in 1881 and had established Tuskegee with the help of both black and whites in Tuskegee, some influential whites. So he was able to do that. But Booker T. Washington did two things that was going to hurt him a little later when it came to the land grant. He had figured out that Alabama as a state wasn't going to do much for black education. So he started turning north, going north to big and great industrialists to get help. And many of these industrialists in the north were Republicans as well. So now, just as the Second Morrill Act is passed, it appears now in the papers and the knowledge that this is what Booker T. Washington has done, because Tuskegee was ahead of Alabama at the time, the Huntsville Industrial School. But Council was so good at his own politics with the whites from this county and the legislature, he managed to tip the vote. And that's how A&M got it, rather than Tuskegee. Tuskegee probably would have gotten it because it was ahead of A&M in many programs, except for that. Plus, Dr. Council was a great persuader and very articulate. Yeah.
Now, students, the teachable moment for this is that the rivalry between Alabama A&M, Tuskegee, and Alabama State started, and it didn't have anything to do with football. You understand what I'm saying? It was not about a Magic City Classic. It was about who would get appropriations to build infrastructure and get the land grant designation, which is a federal designation, which means that we are to be here through perpetuity per that designation. Now, with that being said, as you know, we've received a letter from the Secretary of Agriculture and Education, 2 different secretaries, to the governor, who indicated we've been underfunded by $500+ million in state appropriations from 1987 to 2020. Now, that's just one bucket. That's not the federal money.
Yes.
And that's not the FTE funding from 1890 until 1987.
Yes.
So there are 3 or 4 different buckets that we have to address.
Yes.
But the issue here is that even those operational funds are something that we are requesting, that they need to try to, as best the state can, address over time. And we're not the only state. Florida, across to Texas, up to Delaware. All the 1890s, same situation. The question is to Dr. Sims and Dr. Jones. Both of you were involved in our early suit, which addressed some of those issues in the mid-90s, with Dr. Sims being the plaintiff and Dr. Jones working with the faculty. Question is, why did you take the approach that you took? What approach did our board and administration take, and what were the challenges and what were the results?
Well, the Department of Education came to Alabama A&M, and there was a question of dual degree offerings at Alabama A&M and UAH, and there was that dual degree situation that came up. And so the faculty, with Dr. Jim Thompson, he served as, we just organized, it wasn't the faculty senate. But he had some magistrate background in Delaware. And so he served as president, I was the treasurer. And we got the university to allow the faculty to contribute through our business office. And we don't know whether we were going to get fired or not, but we had that going, and so they can contribute, and we hired a lawyer, Thomas Nathan Todd out of Chicago, Illinois. He agreed because he had been working with Grambling and Southern, I they had the dual degree offering at that time. So he was successful with Grambling. And so I knew him and several others did. So he led it, and he couldn't do anything because he was in Chicago, so he had to partner with a lawyer in Alabama, and that was Demetrius Newton. Demetrius Newton was the lawyer that took over the case. And then, so they went to court, and they said, oh, the faculty cannot sue because we were employees. So they kicked us out. And then another organization was formed of individuals, faculty, Dr. Charles McMillan, because he was a father and his children were in the school system. And there were several others, but I just know that he was one of the plaintiffs. And then our alumni came in, that we needed the alumni because they were not employees, we were. And that's when Dr. Sims, Elise Sims, who was serving as the national president at that time, secretary. But she led the effort to get the other groups, so that became the Knight Sims. But Alabama A&M sort of started it under Dr. Richard David Morrison, our president. He allowed that to happen. And so then they took the ball and we supported the alumni. We worked closely with the alumni. But we wanted, and we got at one point, and you can talk about the consent decree, we were awarded through a negotiation when Dr. Douglas Covington came in. We had a consent decree. We had a School of Allied Health. They were going to give us that, $50 million, a law school, and I don't think they had an engineering school, but we had some difficulties with that consent decree being accepted because we had opposition. And so I'll let Elise turn it over to her and take it from there.
Wow. I'm just tired thinking about what all those years, because we're talking about the 70s when the federal government came down. And there were hearings in Birmingham, meetings with the alumni. And a little side note, the person representing the Justice Department was none other than Justice Clarence Thomas. He was assigned to the Alabama case, you know. And we had, you know, we didn't go to trial until 1985. And we stayed in court about 6 weeks. And that was when we found out that we couldn't, that the faculty couldn't sue the faculty, and we needed a third party. Judge Clement called George Wallace to the stand, and he admitted on the stand that he had been for segregation, but he said he was not at that time. And all of those things that had happened during his administration. Now, when he was on the stand, he used the ear horn because he said he couldn't hear good. And his lawyer had to stand there and holler into the horn, whatever the question was. But getting him to admit that was one of the things that helped our case. And Judge Clement, based on the factual information, ruled that the state of Alabama had indeed legally supported segregation in higher education programs. Before we could go to the remedy phase of the case, Alabama and Auburn and all the white schools had gotten together and had gone to the 11th Circuit and said that Judge Clement needed to recuse himself because, they didn't say because he was black. They said because he was in the Senate when the boards of trustees were established. So we went to the 11th Circuit Court, and after that, every time they were trying to find a judge who would retry the case, we had that judge he had to recuse himself because they all had ties to the University of Alabama or one of the TWIs, one of the white schools, and there were no black federal judges in the state of Alabama at that time, other than Judge Clement. And that's how we ended up with a Georgia judge, Judge Harold Murphy. And when Judge Murphy came on board, and this is how politics played in, they wanted to throw out, they did not want us to appeal the portion about land grant. They wanted us to leave that alone because we were the only school, HBCU, who had put land grant in our case as a separate, as another entity. We covered admissions and courses and faculty salaries and everything else, but they did not want land grant in there. At that particular time, I'm not exactly sure, but A&M was getting less than 50 cents on a dollar that was supposed to be matched by the state of Alabama. And it was supposed to be $1 per dollar match, and we were getting less than 50 cents. And the only reason we got up to that was because of Senator Fred Horn, who was over taxation and finance in the Senate at that time. But I'll tell you something that happened. We were up here, I'll never forget, it was in February, and there was a Board of Trustees meeting, and we had polled the board. Everybody was assigned to a board member, trying to get them to vote to let A&M join us in the appeal to the Supreme Court for the land grant issue. They voted yes, and before they could put their coats on, the governor fired every last one of them. Sure did.
So the governor vacated the board.
Yes.
So that's happened here just like it just happened at Tennessee State.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We need more time, and I hope the class is paying attention, because history seems to repeat itself and we're back at the same place again. And I just want to thank you for sharing, Dr. Sims, that very important information. And this is the only way, so you need to write a book, but this is the only way we pull it out of you. So we need to get her a ghostwriter, right? So that she can share all of this. And we can put it in the archive. Dr. Marbury, you want to add any context to this?
Well, I think based on, at least was told this story, it has been at the center of it from the very beginning. I don't think we should leave it be. I think it's still an issue that the board should look at in terms of Mr. President maybe forming a think tank of persons, because this is what the council was. He was, as I say, I think he was a genius and a brilliant, and he wanted people to use their minds. And I think for the future, as we look toward the future, we don't let this go. That you think about in discussing with the board, putting together a think tank that would be made up of alumni, faculty, and others who can make sure that we do the research, and Eddie should be on that too, to do the research, because an injustice was done. And while they may not want to fulfill the fullness of wiping away the injustice, they may we may push them to make an adjustment to the injustice. And that could still be in the millions of dollars because they owe it. They knew when they brought Auburn in, they took over a Methodist school and made it the land grant in 1870. And with two black legislatures, they had promised two black legislatures that they were going to work to try to get blacks to attend Auburn. But as soon as that was done, they forgot about it. Yeah, that's what they do. But what I want to suggest to you is to give that some thought and discuss it with the board, because it was an injustice. And besides, A&M has proven how good it could be and how far we have come. But look, we could have been way over there with a little more justice.
It's very important. And President Marbury, what you just said, we do have board members here. We'll take that suggestion very seriously. As a matter of fact, we're already kind of modeling that.
Yeah, I
but,
figured you
yeah.
would.
But to this audience and to our golden class, we have to be very careful how we approach this, because we cannot afford where we're going to destabilize this institution and to stymie our progress. Tennessee State right now, right above us, is in a very precarious position right now, and they don't know what their future looks like. They vacated the whole board, new board, president gone, the students in disarray. There was a suit filed in Georgia, in Georgia, and we don't know the status of that suit. We're researching it. And there was also a suit filed by students and others in Florida. Federal court has already dismissed that suit. So once they dismiss that suit, how do you go back and redress it? We don't know. But the bottom line is we need to talk more, we need to communicate more in that think tank approach. Listen, we're out of time, or we might be beyond time, but let's wrap up. Would any of you like to add some closing thoughts to this discussion or any part of it? Dr. Jones?
I just agree with you. I think we have some valuable history, and we have a lot about this institution that has not been recorded or has not been in print. And we need to have that done. We're working on things about our faculty. When we think about the faculty that have come through to the Hill and where they are now, they're doing exceptional things. And so we're looking at trying to document some of that, and we need to do that as a part of our legacy. And we need to do it in all aspects, and especially many of the things, and I've known at least Dr. Sims for years, and Dr. Marbury hired me as vice president under him when he was president. But we just need to capture that history. He's captured the history on which William Hooper Council, but there's a lot of A&M's history that needs to be recorded, and I think they're working on it now. But we all need to be sharing those things that we know about the university.
One thing I would add, and when I come back to visit campus, the first thing comes to mind that this is holy ground, and it causes me to remember the Green Bottom Inn, which I'm sure some of you all may be familiar with, some maybe not. But to put it in context, it was one of Alabama's first hotels in the 1800s. It was built where our bookstore is right now. But a famous horse breeder, he was a Revolutionary War soldier. He constructed it in 1815. But it was the place to be. 3 U.S. presidents would frequently visit: James K. Polk, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson loved racing horses and would race horses where we call the quad today. That was the racetrack. But President Monroe, he was the president before Alabama actually came into the Union. So one day he surprised the Huntsville citizens, because Huntsville was a temporary capital in 1819. So he surprised them and visited just to give the citizens confidence that it's a good idea to come into the Union or the United States. But in return, they took Monroe here to Green Bottom Inn with fine dining and more or less solidify the deal of actually coming into the Union. So our history is literally rooted in the history of actually Alabama becoming a state. Fast forward at Green Bottom Inn, and I'll make it quick, this is where slaves would travel from the Virginias to the Carolinas, right outside this road. One would be our dear own Dr. Council, coming from Carolina, who was temporarily taken to Virginia, then coming deeper into the South here, where he'd be purchased by Madison County Judge D.C. Humphreys. Humphreys would take him to till his fields, cotton and cornfields throughout North Alabama. Here in Jackson County, long story short, we get the land grant designation. We move from downtown and we settle right where he's sold into bondage. What a story. What a story. And that's the gravity that we have, and that's the love and admiration we should have for our institution.
I just want to say one more thing. Dr. Council did not know, but he probably surmised that Alabama A&M would be located in a great city that's unique as the technological center of the United States, Huntsville. So one of the things I wanted to suggest that with rapidly evolving technology, we would, as an institution, would always be at the center. And one of the things you could consider is for other HBCUs that might want to look to A&M where they could send a student here for a quarter or semester and enjoy being a part in this great technological center. And thus that would make A&M a centerpiece located here with the Space Center, and I think reach out to the other HBCUs and giving students a chance to enjoy what our students enjoy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Sims, you want to close us out?
Yes, please. I thank you again for allowing me to be here, but I have to say, I am here not because I got up and did anything wonderful and great. The National Alumni Association of Alabama A&M University supported me all the way. It wasn't a paying job. We didn't get anything out of it. But just having them surround me, because being involved in that lawsuit did affect my family a lot. And especially in that 1990 trial when it was in Birmingham. And there were some alums who went to court for me every day and sat there as plaintiffs, a group of 5 men. And the other thing I wanted to say about the Alumni Association, had we not become incorporated, a separate entity from the university, we could not have carried the water.
Let's give them a warm round of applause. We can do better than that. This has been tremendous, went a little longer than we anticipated, but we got some rich, rich information that some of us did not have. And I'm just so grateful that Dr. Marbury will get up and come, Dr. Sims will get up and come. Give them another warm round of applause, please. And so, Dr. Nassmatter, would you help them? We have a small token of appreciation for our panelists. Each of you, we have a plaque for your service on this day of the 149th Founders Day Convocation. And wow, I don't have to, woo, I might want one of these. Y'all, can y'all see that? That is nice. Now, Dr. Marbury and Dr. Sims can't carry this, so somebody's got to carry it for them. But that's our small token of appreciation for you coming today. The students want to see it, Dr. Nash. Hey, we first class up here, right? All right. That's heavy now, don't let her. All right. Okay, we'll move on with our program now. We would like to take a moment to thank you all for your support, past and present, and we encourage even more support from you. And so with that being said, we would like to recognize the ladies and gentlemen who are here today with us, with the members of the Golden Class of 1974. Would you please stand and be recognized? All members of the Class of 1974, which includes Dr. Sims. All right, now I know you think you're young again, but somebody needs to establish a curfew. So you don't be out too late to time. Now, with Mr. Miller, would you come forward and introduce our Alumni of the Year?
Good evening. See, the full bio is on page 15 of your program, so I'll be a little brief for the interest of time. Our 2024 Alumni of the Year is Miss Mary Jones Moore. She's a Huntsville, Alabama native. She was raised by her parents, the late John and Mabel Jones, and she's a consummate family person. She attended high school at J.O. Johnson High School, and she received a scholarship to come to Alabama A&M in academics and athletics, where she played volleyball and she was a cheerleader. She was a 1983 graduate of Alabama A&M University with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and Technology, and she currently serves at KBR Government Solutions in Huntsville, Alabama as a test engineer. Mary Jones served as the past president of the Alabama A&M Alumni Association, serving from 2020 to 2023. And under her leadership, we realized significant growth in our membership, our fundraising, and our scholarship giving. She currently serves on the board as the immediate past president. She's the current president of the North Alabama NAACP Huntsville-Madison County Branch 5034. And she's a member of the executive board of the Alabama A&M Bulldog Club. She's a Silver Life member of the A&M Alumni Association and the NAACP, and she's a life member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she has served as vice president in several other committees. She's a member of the Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church in Huntsville, where she serves on the usher board, member of the Women's Ministry and Scholarship Committee. She's proud, and I should say, she says she's a co-founder, but I think she owns it, the Alabama A&M Baby Bulldog Cheerleaders. And she's, as I said earlier, a consummate family lady. And at this time, I'd like you to join me in congratulating the Alabama A&M University Alumni Association's 2024 Alumni of the Year, Ms. Mary Jones Moore.
Good afternoon. Dr. Williams, members of the Board of Trustees, alumni, family, and friends. It's a great day to praise the Lord. Amen. It's also a great day to be an AAMU Bulldog. Happy 149th Founders Day to my beloved Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University. Thank you, Dr. William Hooper Council, for dreaming the dream and executing your vision in finding our university, our jewel on the hill, in 1875. I thank the Almighty King for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of Council's legacy. I am honored to stand before you as the 2024 Alumna of the Year. My work and support for Alabama A&M University will never end. I am a Bulldog for life. I am and will always be a bad, bad Bulldog until the day I die. As alumni of this great university, we are charged to garner and galvanize support for Alabama A&M University in ways that are compatible with the objectives of the university. Our intent is to ensure that Alabama A&M University remains a center of substance and excellence. I encourage all alumni to become change agents and foot soldiers of the Alumni Association and the university. And that goes for those of you who are graduating today. Dr. Williams and VP Ali, if you would allow me to present this PSA to the AAMU alumni and friends. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7 tells us that God loves a cheerful giver, and so does Alabama A&M University. The AAMU Alumni Association needs you. We're a team of teams working together to conduct the mission of the association. Next year, we will celebrate our 150th Founders Day. Counting today, that is approximately 363 days away. What does that mean to us? I'm glad you asked. If we save $1 a day, we can donate that $363 to the $150 million goal for the 150th Founders Day celebration. Give yourself a hand. However, if it is in your heart to donate more, please do so. Happy Founders Day, and may God bless you. And as always, service is sovereignty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller, Ms. Moore. We will move very fast now. We're honored to recognize the President Richard D. Morrison Award recipient. The recipient of this award possesses and demonstrates through his dedication and commitment a quest to better serve humankind through civic engagement, community service, and education. This year's recipient is none other than my friend, Mr. Daniel Casambira. Mr. Casambira, please come forward to the podium to accept your award. Can y'all see this one? Mr. Casambira is actually President Casambira. He's president of our local United Way chapter here in Huntsville, Madison County. Please join me in recognizing our Award of Excellence recipients. This is the time that we pay special recognition to our faculty and staff at the university. At AMU, we are fortunate to have dedicated faculty and staff members who are our most valuable asset. These awards, given their exemplary faculty and staff members, are determined by the recommendation of their peers. Each recipient, this is the key part, will receive a certificate, but a $500 check. The overall employee of the year for both faculty and staff will receive a $1,000 honorarium and certificate. Dr. John Jones, Provost, Vice President of Academic Affairs, will present the Excellence in Teaching Award, Excellence in Faculty Advisory and Mentoring Award, and the Excellence in Service Award to the university, and followed by Dr. Majid Dweek, Vice President for Research and Sponsor Programs, who will present the Excellence in Scholarship, Research, Creative Activity, and other professional contributions. Then I will present the overall award, $1,000, for Excellence in Teaching, Research, and Service. Provost Jones.
As indicated, I will present 3 awards. We will begin with the Excellence in Teaching Award. This year's winner is Dr. Emerald Jones, Assistant Professor of the Department of Social Sciences. Please come to the stage to accept your award.
Dr. T, can you get her Alabama A&M stole? She's walking up here with that. This ain't Howard.
The Excellence in Faculty Advising, Mentoring. This year's winner is Ms. Tia Hampton, instructor in the Department of Biological Sciences. The last award that I will present is the Excellence in Service to the University Community. And this year's winner is one who has really done a great job working with Huntsville City Schools, and I think it is most deserving that Dr. Charlotte Teague receive this award, Associate Professor and Chairperson, Department of English and Foreign Languages.
Thank you, Provost Jones. And now for the overall award for excellence in teaching, research, and service. This is the person that we recognized for the past year who's in all 3 areas of our land-grant mission, President Marbury, has made what we feel is the most significant contribution. And this year's winner is from the College of Agricultural, Life, and Natural Sciences. And we ask him to please come to the stage to accept your award, Dr. Ernest Siebert. Next, we will present our Staff Awards of Excellence by Division, beginning with Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Brock Talley, followed by Provost John Jones, followed by our Chief Financial Officer, Vice President Carlton Spellman, and then I will ask VP Jamal Ali to join me as I present the overall Staff Employee of the Year. Dr. Talley.
Thank you, President Williams. On behalf of the Division of Student Affairs, this year's winner is Mr. Carlton Wright. Director of University Bands.
No, it's coming later. It's coming later. Later. This is it, right? That's it, right? Slight change in the program here. Approach the podium to introduce the Excellence in Scholarship, Research, and Creative Activity and other professional contributions. Would you come forward and present Dr. Dweek, Vice President for Research?
Thank you, sir. No problem. Good afternoon. It's an honor and pleasure to introduce the Excellence in Scholarship, Research, Creative Activity, and other professional contribution. This year, winner is Dr. Mint Reddy, Professor of Department of Natural and Environmental Science. Please come over to the stage to accept the award.
Skipped over the program. Okay, Dr. Jones and VP Spellman.
Thank you. Within the Division of Academic Affairs, this year's winner is Ms. Talitha Battle, Department of Visual, Performing, and Communication Arts. I will accept on her behalf.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to announce the Staff Employee of the Year for the Division of Business and Finance, Ms. Cheryl Johnson, Assistant Director, Human Resources.
Thank you, Vice Presidents Dweek, Provost Jones, and VP Spellman. Now I ask Vice President Ali to come forward. The Office of the President, which includes athletic compliance, Title III, General Counsel, Marketing, Communications, and Advancement, and the Foundation. We would like to present this year's winner for all of those areas. Staff person who's exemplified council spirit the best. This year's winner is Ms. Kim Davis. Okay. You can do it, yeah. Well, you have to say all that. Yeah. And now finally, to present the Staff Member of the Year from the division that's the most important to you, athletics. I would like to invite our Athletic Director, Paul Bryant, to come forward and present the award for this year's winner.
Good Bulldog afternoon. On behalf of the Department of Athletics, our staff award goes to Mr. Andrew Murphy, who is our head track and field coach. And ironically, they're at the SWAC championship, and we just won 2 events. So we got to keep cheering on the track team. Thank you.
Good job, man. Good job. Good job. All right, as we come to a close, I'd like to recognize a few people here. Please join me in recognizing distinguished members of our Board of Trustees with us today. If you would, please stand and be recognized. You know, y'all making me look bad up here. In front of my mentor, Dr. Marbury. We have one more award, y'all, for another whole division. You got about 5 employees in that division. So we would like to invite our Vice President, Chief Information Officer, Dr. Kylie Nash, to come forward and present her Staff Member of the Year for that unit. You can read this right now.
Okay, Staff Employee of the Year for the Division of Information Technology is Mr. Adolph Sism.
Mr. Sism and Ms. Davis coordinated. Are there any more divisions that I'm not aware of? For the good of the order. All right. So we'll move forward. Now, please join me in recognizing our trustees who are present. If they would, please stand and be recognized, starting by our Chairman Pro Tem, Trustee Wayne Watts. Our Vice Chair, Trustee Kevin Ball. Secretary, Trustee Tiffany Johnson Cole. Trustee Dr. Cherie Pickett. Trustee Jeanette Jones. And our Student Government Association President, Mike Davis. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Are there any elected officials here? Would you please stand and be recognized? Any elected officials? With the President's Cabinet, would you please stand and be recognized? Most of them who you've already met in their divisions. Thank you. Will all Associate Vice Presidents, Deans, and other administrators, would you stand, please?